Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Coffee Connections. I'm your host, Seth Weiner, and I am your Rocktioneer. Welcome again. It's spring. It's nice outside again. Finally, the last time we talked, I said it was nice outside, and then it rained, and it poured. Boy, did it pour! But it's starting to feel like fall. The leaves have fallen. And I was looking to play Autumn Leaves, but I couldn't find that. But the track we did play in the beginning is with our guest today. Let me tell you about our guest. Our guest is Joe Alterman. And Joe is the executive director of Neranenah, which was formerly known as the Atlanta Jewish Music Festival. But we'll get into that. Joe's a native of Atlanta. He studied music in New York University, where he received both his bachelor's and master's degrees in jazz piano performance. He's performed with so many. He's been covered in the press by so many. He's one interesting fact that he's played venues like the world-renowned Kennedy Center, the Lincoln Center, Birdland in New York, and New York's Blue Note. So yeah, he's open for some of the biggest acts, like I mentioned, Norah Jones and Earth, Wind, and Fire, and just gosh, he's got a great career. But we're not here to talk about his music as much as we are about all the wonderful work he is doing with Neranenah. Now, I mentioned that they used to be known as the Atlanta Jewish Music Festival, but today Joe's going to tell us exactly what's going on because there's a name change and a mission change. Ladies and gentlemen, please, Joe.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Yeah, man. It's good to finally connect with you. I know we swim in several of the same circles, but it's an honor to have you on the show.
Yeah, well, thanks for having me, really. Yeah.
Well, it is Coffee Connection, so we got to do a little coffee talk. Do you drink coffee?
I do. I'm drinking right now.
Oh, yeah? Oh, look at that. You got a mug there.
I do.
Well, let's see that mug.
I got a little Steinway mug. I bought a piano a little while ago. Not a Steinway, but it was at the Steinway factory, so they gave me the free mug for buying the piano.
Oh, okay. Interesting. So you drink your coffee one note at a time?
Pretty much, yes. I drink it black. Yeah.
Okay, black. So you prefer hot or cold?
I'm a hot coffee guy.
Yeah, even here in Atlanta. Growing up in Atlanta, and you're a hot coffee guy.
Yeah, I can't explain it. It's just what I like.
Okay.
Yeah.
French press or drip?
Either's good. I have a Keurig here, so both of those are like delicacies for me when I can get them.
All right. Well,
yeah.
I'm going to let you tell the story, but just give everyone a little background. You became the executive director about a year ago for the Atlanta Jewish Music Festival, which is, I think, on its 10th year. Is that right? Is it on 10 years? Wow. Mm-hmm. I got involved in year 1 and 2 when Russell was just birthed it, and I kind of helped out here and there a little bit. So it's amazing to see the growth of it. But why don't you tell everyone about who you are, what Neranenah is, etc. I'll go ahead and hand it over to you.
Yeah, I'll give the spiel. So basically, I grew up here in Atlanta, and as I was growing up, all I wanted to do was move to New York and play piano, and luckily that happened. But I guess after being in New York for about 8 or 9 years, where I was living out the dream, which was to play somewhere every night, I realized that after doing that for about 6 years, I was only enjoying 2 out of 6 nights a week. And I know you're not going to like every aspect of your job, but to me, I realized that wasn't the right trajectory for me. Music's too special to only enjoy 2 out of 6 nights for it. It's always been like medicine for me. So I wanted to do anything I could to save that. But while I was trying to get those gigs originally, I had done a lot of work on the music business side. And I interned at the Blue Note in New York for many years and did marketing for them. And I worked with music PR people. I did grant reviewing for the National Endowment for the Arts. I worked with record producers. I did everything I possibly could do, truthfully, just to get gigs. And it worked. But then once I got back to Atlanta, I decided to move back to Atlanta at the end of this kind of period. Realized I needed something to do in addition to playing piano to save the joy and the medicinal aspect of music. And I realized, luckily, I started to miss some of that music business type work. So I actually met with Russell, who founded the Atlanta Jewish Music Festival, and just was curious if he had any contacts that I could meet with. And he actually asked me, he kind of hinted that he was interested in stepping down, and asked me if I might want to take it over. At the time, I wasn't really sure that I would, but I decided to shadow him for the 2018 festival. And, I realized that basically as a musician, a jazz musician who has a lot of great, legendary black jazz musician mentors, my take on Jewish music is a little different than a lot of people. And so, whereas the organization previously defined Jewish music as a Jew playing music, it was really a showcase for Jewish performers. I was always asking myself, what is Jewish music? What is Jewish music? And once it kind of hit me that to me, it's not really a thing. It's not really a genre. You might think it's klezmer music, but that's a genre of its own. Once I realized that to me, it's less of a genre and more of a cultural phenomena that touches on every genre, I was like, I want to do this. And so basically, I started in the summer of 2018, and we've had a good 2 years, but I've realized that the name isn't really accurately reflecting what we do anymore. So pretty much, to many non-Jews, they think it's religious music for Jews. And many Jews think it's klezmer music, or, and it's neither of those. And it's basically, my job has been, hey, I run the Atlanta Jewish Music Festival. It's not what you think it is, for 2 years. And I've always wanted to, I like how, music festivals today, founded after like 1980, all have one word, Bonnaroo, Spoleto, Coachella, all this stuff, versus, the Atlanta Music Festival. And I really wanted this to reflect that. And luckily we got the funding to do a rebrand. And when we found this word, Neranenah, I remember at a board meeting, we all kind of looked at each other like, that sounds like a festival. And then we found out that it means in Hebrew, let's come and sing together. And I think that's a perfect both what it means and what we're trying to do. When we talk a lot about American music, and there's Jewish parts of all over American music. When I was running it as AJMF, I've done some work for Wynton Marsalis, and I told him the name of the festival, and he said, Jewish music, fascinating, not really a thing, but all over American music. And I totally agree. And I think let's sing together in Hebrew is, really exemplifies what we're trying to do, what we're all about now, if that makes sense.
Oh, absolutely. No, that's a great way to put it.
Bit of a ramble, I know.
No, it's good. I mean, and a lot of people have been to a bar mitzvah or a wedding and recognize Neranenah from Hava Nagila, but also there's what's it, Lachuna Neranenah? That one?
Yeah, it's like a beginning of services. Yeah.
So yeah, that's it's interesting. It's got to be hard to do a name change, but you said you got the funding. How'd you get the funding? What was that about?
Well, basically, my takeaway from the first year of when I ran the Atlanta Jewish Music Festival was basically, I had a shift in vision, and I realized that the vision worked, but that we had a branding problem. Many non-Jews were afraid to come. I had non-Jewish friends who were, are you sure I can come? And I'm like, yeah, this is yeah, of course you can come. And then a lot of Jewish people who I had to convince that this was not just going to hear, Hava Nagila all night, for example. And I put out flyers everywhere. This was my test the first year. I put out 2 stacks everywhere I went. One had the name of the festival facing up. One had the name of the programs facing up. And afterwards, I go pick them back up. And I realized that most of the ones with the programming were taken, but nearly none of the ones with the name up were taken. And so basically, I met with our top funders, and I basically said, look, this vision's working, but we have a branding problem, and we either need to step back from being a brand and become like a Jewish Arts Council, puts on some concerts, or we need to become a brand. And luckily, one of the funders there agreed to, fund this rebrand. So we worked with a wonderful agency here in town called 3 Owl, and they just kicked major butt for us. Yes.
I would say who knew, but so that's smart. That's a clever way to do that. Have you gotten much pushback or from folks that are like, how could you change the name? Atlanta Jewish Music Festival, it was Atlanta, and now it's this Neranenah. I mean, did you get any of that, or has it been pretty positive?
It's been it's been overwhelmingly positive, but I have gotten a few people who, first of all, I want to say that if I think, you worked for Bonnaroo, you said, I think if Bonnaroo was called the Nashville Arts Festival, it wouldn't necessarily be what it is. And my goal here is not to make this festival feel like a hyper local event that happens to be in Atlanta, which, is kind of what AJMF was. No, knock on that. It's just what it was. And my goal here is to have more of a national event that purposely takes place in Atlanta.
A national event. So is there thought and plans to perhaps do the programming outside of Atlanta and grow it back?
Potentially, yeah. I mean, that's one of our like long-term goals on the board. And even when I've, gotten response from funders and people who have, seen this, they said, I have people in, Denver who've already said, we need to bring in Neranenah to Denver. And that's not the immediate goal. The immediate goal is for people to want to come to Atlanta to go to Neranenah. But, in terms of the feedback I've gotten, I have had a couple people that were a little annoyed that we took the word Jewish out of it. But truthfully, to me, it's not that Jewish is the limiting word. The limiting words were Atlanta, music, and festival. We want to do stuff outside of just one weekend a year. And we want to do, stuff beyond just music. I realize in Atlanta, we have the book festival, the film festival, and the music festival.
And the barbecue fest.
And the barbecue fest. But I don't think those are the things that should differentiate them. I think what we really have is live performance. And I really want to lean into things like Jewish comedy and,
Wait, hold on. A Jewish comedy?
Yeah.
Come on.
Yeah.
I mean, there's Jews and comedian in comedy.
Who would have thought? I know.
Next you to tell me that Jews are managers of bands.
that too.
So to give everyone a picture of what the festival was in the past, it was like you said, a weekend. It started off with like one show, Variety Playhouse, 3 acts or whatnot. And then it grew and it grew and it grew to multiple things that were heavy Jewish, like a Havdalah ceremony or a Shabbat, kind of, I think it was like a Steve's or something like that, a Shabbat concert vibe where it's, Shabbat service, but music and then it would be Jewish performers at like the city, like concerts, like people would just go to see this musician and it was part of the festival. So I get that part. And I imagine our listeners are getting it as well, but where does the change go? So now is it still going to be a weekend or are you saying year-long events or can you describe more about where the direction's going?
Yeah. So basically our plan for this year, 2020 was to actually break it up into 2 weekends, to do 1 weekend in March and 1 weekend in August. We would really like to shift, to give all the Jewish festivals in Atlanta more their own time of year. But what we were planning on doing this year is calling it our spring showcase and our fall showcase.
Okay.
So I think basically, an ideal year for me would not be to say, hey, come out to this weekend of programming. It'd be more like, hey, in January, here's our entire season for the rest of the year. And it could be, my ideal year would be, 2 weekends of programming, but some event like every 6 to 8 weeks. So that's really, where I kind of want this to go. And, I don't know when we're going to be able to return to live performance, but.
Well, there is streaming capabilities, which, by the way, you just did last week, folks. If you haven't checked this out, I'll drop a link here in a second. I definitely will drop a link in the notes here on YouTube. But you were just doing you and two other musicians performed with part of the Lincoln Center. Talk about that.
Yeah. Well, so we were really lucky, especially timing wise. We were selected thanks to South Arts here in Atlanta to be a part of the Kennedy Center's Arts Across America series. So basically they picked 10 performing arts organizations in each region, and we were chosen as one of them. And basically what we did is this was kind of our Neranenah debut concert. And so I played piano and I got 2 wonderful vocalists, Carla Harris and John Liebman. And we pretty much did an overview of Jewish contributions to 20th century American music. So, we started with, Gershwin and Harold Arlen, and we ended with Dylan and Randy Newman. And basically, I really believe that when you talk about Jewish music, the Jewish part of the music is the story, not necessarily the music. There's so much you think it sounds Jewish, but it's really not. And I think the Jewish part is the story. And so basically, we play these iconic American songs, and I'd weave in different Jewish stories throughout. And it was a great launch. It was, I think, so far we've had over 8,000 listeners.
Oh, wow. That's fantastic.
Yeah.
That's really, really great. I have not seen it, but now that I saw the link, I will see it. And John is awesome. He's got a great band. So that's a great example. So John's got the Electromagnetics, right? It's isn't that the band?
Electromatics.
Okay, so I was close.
You're very close. Very close.
It's a very so a band like that, he's Jewish. Would that be considered a band because he's Jewish, a part of the music, Jewish music, or what would make so define that part to me. Is it because he's Jewish or?
Well, to me, when I originally took on this job, I met with 200 people and asked them what's Jewish music. And I got 200 different answers. I'm not kidding you. And it was everything from it's a Jew playing music to anything in Hebrew, to anything based on the Old Testament, to anything from Israel. And I could find exceptions to every one of those. I'd find a band that sings Johnny Cash in Hebrew, or a Taylor Swift cover band from Israel, or, gospel music is mostly based on the Old Testament. And, so basically it's everything and nothing. But for Liebman, I think a great example is we played Louisiana 1927 by Randy Newman. And Randy Newman is Jewish, or at least born Jewish. And John Liebman is also Jewish, or at least born Jewish. But to me, the Jewish part of that song is that a lot of, one of the central tenets of Judaism is tikkun olam, which means repair the world. And when you look at Jewish composed songs throughout American history, going back to Yiddish theater, a lot of these songs have a social justice component. So you take a song like the first one that I can think of is Brother, Can You Spare a Dime, which was written during the Depression. And it was, Can You Spare a Dime? And it was like a precursor to songs like What's Going On. So, and there's a lot of songs like this throughout Jewish history.
Or the later version, I Need a Dollar.
Or that, yes. But Randy Newman's Louisiana in 1927 is basically his take on the Mississippi flood in 1927, where Louisiana got hit pretty hard. And what the city did is they diverted the levees to miss the rich areas in town, and they hit the poor areas of town. So this was his kind of angry social justice take on that flood. So to me, that's the Jewish part. But then we played a John Liebman original, and I said, this falls more into the Jew playing music category. So I think as long as you can say what's Jewish about it, it's Jewish music.
All right. And then you've got an event coming up. I'll pop this up here. Talk a little bit about this here.
Oh, yeah. So basically, this is a fascinating. So Ben Sidran is, I don't know how familiar you are or your listeners are with Ben Sidran, but he's really kind of my hero in this world. And in music. I mean, he's a piano player and a producer and a writer. And he wrote a book called There Was a Fire, Jews, Music, and the American Dream, which kind of has been my guide throughout all these years. And Ben's been a wonderful friend and mentor since I started the job. And we brought him to Atlanta a few times. But really, what we're doing over the next 13 weeks, we started last week, is I asked Ben to pick, a bunch of songs from American history that he thought told great Jewish stories. So basically, we started last week with Take Me Out to the Ball Game. And basically, that was written by a Jewish guy named Albert von Tilzer, who was working for Irving Berlin. And the cool thing about that is he had never been to a baseball game in his life, and he read an article about baseball in a Yiddish newspaper in New York, and he liked the article so much that he wrote a song. It's Take Me Out to the Ball Game. And when you look at the lyrics, you kind of realize it's not really about baseball. It's I don't care if I never get back, things like that. It's really an immigrant story an American immigrant story wanting to be a part of America. And a lot of these Jewish composed songs from that era have this kind of, it's called like longing to belong, even White Christmas or, Take Me Out to the Ball Game, for example. And so anyway, we started with that. And this week we'll talk about Louis Armstrong and his relationship with Judaism, which is pretty fascinating. And we'll, end up with Bob Dylan and, Billy Joel and the Brill Building. And so each week we're going to release a song, and it's about, 10-minute conversation. He'll play the tune at the end. It's pretty cool.
Oh, that's awesome. And that's available on your website right here. Is that right?
It'll actually be, nice. It'll be on YouTube, but we'll link to it from our website and stuff.
And if you're on YouTube, definitely check out Neranenah. You can subscribe to them, just like you're subscribing to Coffee Connections.
Nice. Yes.
So that's great. You are you planning anything for the spring, or are you still kind of pandemic mindset and waiting?
We're really right now, I'd say we're really focused on a lot of this digital content that we're going to put out over the next few months. But we have, we canceled 2 weekends of programming this year. And our priority is to reschedule those weekends or those shows that we had to cancel as soon as we can. So we've got, dates held, but we really don't know what's coming. So we haven't signed the contract. It's pretty much everyone hold these dates. We'll check back in a month.
Right. The 3 week. We'll talk in 3 weeks. We'll see where things are at.
It's been a lot of.
And by the way, we'll see where things are at 3 weeks from today, because that is the day to vote. So,
oh my gosh, yes.
3 weeks until we can get back to, well, never mind. We're not getting back, but until we move forward, whatever that is, like, let's just, let's move forward. Okay. Shifting gears, moving forward. You are a nonprofit. You mentioned that you got funding from board members and community members. Where's your primary funding come? Grants, or is it direct donations?
So our primary supporters are the Marcus Foundation and the Blank Foundation and the Helen Stern Fund here in town. But we do, I'd say, we do have a pretty robust donor base, but I'd say at least right now, 60% of our funding comes from grants and foundations.
Yeah. Well, that's great.
Yeah.
So you haven't had to do a large, like, individual support events or anything like that. But when you did the weekend concerts, the proceeds of that were going to the organization. How much of that is what keeps the organization alive?
So we do not make, right now, first of all, we do a month. I'm basically fundraising all year round with individuals. But yeah, ticket sales do not account for much. We if we can break even on a concert, we're doing okay. But we don't rely on, it'd be great to grow that. But we don't rely on ticket sales to run.
So you're like a band. You don't rely on the ticket sales. You rely on merch.
Pretty much, yeah. I'd say a lot of the nonprofits here in town that put on, ticketed events don't rely on the ticket sales to run. We'd like to make, we're working on it.
No, but it's an interesting thing. And as a fundraiser, as a benefit auctioneer, I do a lot of galas, and you'll find that some will rely on that ticket price to break even so that whatever fundraising they do that night can actually be fundraising. But the ticket price doesn't give them anything. But most of organizations are relying on an underwriter to come in to be able to pay for the event. So those, which is essentially a party, right? Like, let's bring our people together. Let's celebrate the mission. Let's create new donor relationships. And while we have all that going on, which is paid for by the Marcus Foundation, thank you, or whoever, right? That you also have an opportunity for fundraising there, and again, building those donor relations. So it's not, you're right, it's not always the ticket price, and a lot of it is the programming. And how do you guys? I do want to talk just briefly about the programming. Like, how do you go about picking your artists? So, do you have a list that you're going after? Is there a concept like this year? Let's really dive into, get this message out so that people are exposed to it here, and here, and that's the message. Kind of where's that all flow?
Yeah, well, honestly, I kind of come up with concepts, and I think about what I would like to hear too. But I'm constantly thinking about this stuff. But really, we've always done a collaboration with ATL Collective. And to me, it used to really just feature the music of a Jewish performer. To me, I've decided all of our collaborations with ATL Collective will actually focus on the music and the story of a Jewish-owned record label, which can get complicated. Our first year, we purposely picked Chess Records because that's a very complicated story about the prolific, important, and complicated Jewish-Black relationship. But my first year, I was determined to do the music of Leonard Bernstein. And I really wanted, when I was thinking of who can play this, I was not thinking which Jewish performer can play the music of Leonard Bernstein. I was thinking Leonard Bernstein was a great Jewish contributor to music. Who can best play his music? And then, so I got a piano player, Bill Charlap, who's, just fantastic. Tony Bennett, Barbara Streisand, with everybody. And so pretty much I come up with concepts in my head or have specific bands in mind. People send me a lot of stuff. I listen to everything. But it's really, I'm thinking a lot about what could we bring to Atlanta that's really special, that has a good Jewish story, and that would be great. And it would also be different from just going to see, a Jewish performer when they happen to be in town.
Yeah. Well, I can't wait till you bring David Grisman through town, and
we're working on it. Really.
And who's he play with? The Jewish musician.
Statman, Andy Statman.
Yes,
yeah.
Andy Statman. Gosh, oh God, love that stuff. That stuff. Yeah.
I saw Grisman like a year or two ago, and at the end of the first song, he said, "Can y'all hear me?" and someone yelled out, "Play louder," and he said, "It's called listening."
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's kind of interesting now that we're in this new world so I went to the drive-in to see Humphreys McGee on Friday, and that was my first live music. I mean, I'm a huge live music person.
Mhm.
I'm like, 3-4 shows a week kind of guy. And so that was the first concert since March or even maybe February.
Mm.
At any rate, it was interesting because you're so spread out. It was really done safely. And I'll talk about that on my other podcast another time. But where I'm getting is musicians actually are now getting people to listen because they're spread out. There's a lot less talking, a lot less socializing because you're not walking around seeing your friends. And then in the virtual realm, which is even funnier, is that now musicians don't have the crowd in front of them where they can see them. So the talking over music is gone.
That's very interesting. Yes.
I mean, so is the energy. You're a performer. I mean, what's it like for you to perform like the other day where you're performing on camera? You've got a couple people in the live audience, your videographer. Oh, by the way, great team. I saw you working with Ali and the production and the production team. What were they called again? Alana?
Goodfoot.
Well, yeah, her, and then the video camera production team.
Live Event Solutions.
That's it. Yeah, they do a really great job.
Oh, they were awesome. But no, you're right.
What's it like for you though to perform and not have that energy like with the crowd? Because when you perform, I know it's like 10,000 people in front of you, right?
Well, you're rounding up just a bit. No, but it's interesting. I guess when I'm playing with a band on a camera, it's definitely odd because we don't feel the energy from the audience, which is a little strange. But to me, the trickiest part is, and the most relieving part when I have a band, is we can say, this song, we're going to do this many choruses, so we know when it's going to end. But I've done a couple live stream concerts where it's just solo piano and I'm by myself. There's no one and to me, the great thing about music is that I can get very carried away. So I'll play a solo song and have no idea, I don't set how long it's going to be ahead of time. So I would do these live streams and think, geez, did I just play a song for 10 minutes or 2 minutes? I don't really know.
So you're basically just covering Keith Jarrett.
Pretty much. Without the moaning. Yes.
Without the moaning. But you probably do the instead of the moaning. Right? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
You should do that. Would be really funny. Do like a Keith Jarrett, but instead of, oh yeah.
That'd be great. I love Keith Jarrett though.
Yeah, one of my favorites for sure. So okay, like now that you're able to bring all these musicians through, is there a musician and you're being a musician, is there someone that like, wow, if I bring this person through, that maybe I get to play with them, or someone that you're really excited to be able to connect with on that level? Yeah,
well, I mean, bringing Bill Charlap was a big deal for me. I'm not sure if you're familiar with his music, but he's one of my favorites. And, it was cool because, at the sound check, he's saying, hey, Joe, play with my trio for a minute. I want to hear the room. So I'm playing with his band, which I love. But, to me, I don't know. I'm really excited. We are trying to work on Grisman. And, it's to me, I mean, I love connecting with these people on a personal level, but to me, this job isn't really that. I just want to bring good stuff to town, and Grisman's someone I'm very excited about. Got my fingers crossed we can make that happen.
Yeah, man, I could totally see because you could do with Grisman, you could do a regular concert, which all the heads will show up, and you get a mix of such a mixed audience. But then you could also do a bagel brunch with him too, where at the City Winery, and people get a chance to talk his story a little bit, it's a lot of mixed programming you could do. It's great.
Oh, totally. We're leaving it open. Yeah.
Well, it's been a real pleasure talking with you. I'm sure we could, keep talking about music for hours, but I like to, before I end, is there anything else you want to share about an upcoming event or getting involved with Neranenah or anything else?
Not really. I mean, I hope y'all would just follow us on social media and see what we're up to. We got at least 2 events a week for the next while, and it's just at Neranenah.
And those events are free, correct?
They are, yeah. I mean, it's really just like a release of a video, and we're doing like a live stream series every Wednesday night, and just little things. But no, I appreciate you wanting to talk to me about this and talking about this and all this. Yeah.
Oh, great. I close every episode with my guests getting to pick one of my future guests, a nonprofit in Atlanta. Is there a nonprofit that you think would be a good fit for Coffee Connections?
Yes, I think y'all should talk to somebody at South Arts, the organization that's kind of helped us get in, made that connection with the Kennedy Center. And my friend over there, Leland McKeithen, is awesome. I would recommend her, but there's others too.
Yeah, well, I would appreciate that little post connection over email would be most appreciated there. But thank you again for your time. Oh, by the way, on the intro, if you didn't recognize that performer, that was you.
Sounded familiar. No, thanks for playing it.
And you can check out Joe's music on Spotify, and again, neranenaharts.org for all the upcoming events and getting involved. Thank you so much, Joe. Everyone, we'll see you back Thursday with we've got Goodwill of North Georgia, joining us. So till then, thanks everyone. We'll see you.